Hi, my name is Hannah, and today we're interviewing Udo. Originally from Germany, he is now based in the Philippines. Udo manages a well-known hotel brand and has decades of experience in the leisure sector. Today he gives us his view on key trends that require our attention as we emerge into a post-pandemic world.
This podcast channel is about you, successful international entrepreneurs, successful expats, successful investors. Sponsored by HCJ.tax.
And we're live. Good morning, Udo. How are you?
Good morning, Derren. Good morning. Thank you. Good evening to you. All good on my side. Thank you for asking.
Wonderful. Good to see you. It's been such a long time. So, could you please introduce yourself to those who will be watching or listening to a little podcast?
Yeah, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be. I'm Udo. I'm German, currently residing in the Philippines, and have come here for this time assignment about 3 years ago. And I'm connected to the hospitality industry and currently with Makati.
Okay, fantastic. So, a lifelong hotelier. And I'm keen to get your insights into what's happening right now in the context of the travel industry. So what we're going through, of course, I know it's unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this before. But given your deep insights into how this industry works, what would you imagine the future of travel looking like?
The future of travel, well, we had a release of a survey yesterday within the Philippines, and 85% of that survey basically said that safety is top priority. So if they don't feel that the establishment they are either traveling with or staying at or dining at, it's safe in terms of hygiene measures, they would think twice of using those services. So hygiene, safety is one of the top priorities. Most interesting on the survey was also that people will start traveling again within the next 6 months after the restrictions are eased. So there's a good sign on the horizon. Obviously, it also depends on government with opening up the airports, but domestic travel is hopefully rebounding faster than international. Health and safety measures are number one.
Absolutely. So I get that. But, I'm just thinking that, people like myself, who've been on basically 1 or 2 flights each week, typically. And that was the way in which we did business. We have clients that are fairly demanding. They want to see us. They want FaceTime. And now we've adjusted. We're doing lots of these Zoom calls. And there's some question as to whether, even when the airports and stuff open back, would we be traveling as much as before? What do you think that looks like? I know you said that domestic, that should return to normal, but what are your thoughts? How do you imagine international travel will evolve?
Well, based on that survey which was released yesterday, the questions have been further itemized. So would people start traveling and what's important? But then the question was also whether in terms of frequency. And the frequency is linked to either having time in terms of holiday available, as well as whether you would have financial resources. Now, people would, generally speaking, reduce the travel over the next 6 months because of lack of finances and lack of vacation time. Because obviously, over the last few months, same as here in Philippines, you start looking into vacation leave, unpaid leave, and so on. So your financial resources have gone down. They're not there where it have been maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago. In terms of time available, it has also gone down. So until the end of the year, people may have an issue of being able to finance this, but also finding time to physically travel. So the full rebounds, I would imagine, happens next year when people are back into a more financial stability, but also you have more time. But
Okay.
important is that people would travel. So in the Philippines, people itself would travel. So if it's, let's say, if I go on a weekend, 2 days off in a week, would I go travel to other places out of Manila? Yes, I would. Would I travel for a few days and maybe a week to somewhere else? Well, I wouldn't have that time.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I could see that.
Not a domestic travel.
Domestic travel. So in terms of domestic travel, I can see that, there's a demand for, wide open spaces because there may still be concerns about social distancing. So you'd want, an environment where there's adequate spacing. So I get that. But I'm just thinking, I guess, of course, a lot depends on what happens in terms of vaccines and stuff like that. But if it is to continue the way in which we see it continuing right now, it'll be tough because, you go on a business trip, you go on a holiday overseas, and, do you want to spend 2 weeks in isolation when you arrive somewhere? Maybe not, so it just seems as if the face of travel would change, both business and leisure. And then in terms of conferences, right? Am I going to attend a conference? Maybe if, the seats are a couple meters apart, maybe. Or maybe this migration to Zoom or Microsoft Team would perhaps reduce the demand for that. I'm just thinking that the leisure industry may be fundamentally impacted or fundamentally impaired by what's going on right now, and there may be grounds for thinking that it may have to completely reinvent itself. Any thoughts on that?
I guess the quarantine when you arrive somewhere for 2 weeks, that's at the moment only temporary.
Yeah.
More and more countries opening up because they have realized that the economic toll, but also the human toll on shutting down governments and economy is greater than the new term that goes around is a herd community.
Right.
So you keep it open, the government, the country, keep open the economy, and you will see what just happened. But the toll at the moment of shutting down is much greater than keeping it open. So more and more countries, more and more governments, more and more businesses going into the same direction. I guess the community quarantine or the 14 days quarantine, because that's what people say is the incubation period of the virus. That's probably only at the moment. But as soon as more and more countries are opening, the air travel opens. What's important probably afterwards is traceability.
Yes.
Let's see how things are going. People have a few months ago, people compared the COVID with a normal common flu. That you have more people passing away on a common flu. You have more people passing away on car accidents. Are you gonna stop now everyone driving cars? And on the force. What makes the difference is when you get the COVID virus, you just hang in there a little bit longer before potentially either you recover or you pass away, unfortunately. But here it's also that people may need to realize that which one is the better evil, having the COVID and a few people being affected, or not having it and then open everything up. It's the pros and cons. But more and more countries have realized open up and face it is probably better than just keeping everything closed.
That's a fair point. That's a powerful point. So stepping back and just looking at the economy, looking at the region, looking at society in general, how else do you see things being impacted by what we're going through right now? What other areas you think are worth observing?
Well, when it comes to hospitality, in order to stay safe, you mean?
Oh, in general, business in general.
Well, in hospitality, at the moment we are starting to implement a lot of contactless activities. It was a trend a few years ago, but then technology was always a little bit behind of what the people are looking for, the consumer. Now, with the current trend of economy wanting to go up, open again, and businesses want to open, but yet wanting to reflect the image of when you do business, that the people you do business with, you are safe. Now technology is being forced to rapidly develop on what needs to be done. So there are a lot of things at the moment out there that can be done in terms of contactless. So same what we do in a hotel. So a lot of things will be contactless rather than contact free. There are certain things it still need to be there.
Yeah.
In the past, where maybe a technology, when you go around and you go to a restaurant and you look at the menu, you would expect the restaurant menu to get a piece of menu into the hand, so you can go through. If you would have come up as a QR code and you scan a QR code, the menu comes up on your tablet or phone. That would have not been flying very well. Today, it is an expectation. I go to the restaurant, I like to have a meal. I know the food preparation is safe because it has always been safe. There's certain things in place. I can see the restaurants wipes everything clean, beautiful and nicely done. But I don't know how many people have touched that menu. How many people have read the newspaper? So today, would expect that they don't get anything anymore in hand. They would just scan it and you have the menu in front of your tablet. So all this kind of technology, it's now being fully implemented. That also goes with payments. It's when you stay in a hotel, you would expect everything is clean. Now, the hotels, for sake of argument, same with airlines, they have always been clean. But it's something you would expect, but it's not something where you would only link it to if I don't see if it's not clean. Today, you would need to see that the establishment's doing something to keep you safe. So in our case, you will see a lot of either signages or UV lights installed, disinfection mats, so you would see it. In the past, when we have disinfection mats on the floor before you get into the hotel, you would say it's just a mat, maybe because of a dirt on your shoes. Today, that same disinfection mat, you will have maybe with a black-yellow sticker note around. Today, because of COVID, you're gonna say, this is something for my shoes because it's disinfecting, because I can see it on the news. But it's pretty much the same as you had in the past. If you touch a handrail from an escalator has a UV component built into the escalator. However, nobody sees, but it's always clean. Let's say if you would make a test on a handrail on an escalator, let's say last year, you would notice they are gem-free because there's a UV technology installed as part of the handrail escalator. Today, you would need to see that technology outside. You need to see there's a machine, UV, where the rubber belt goes through. So today it's all about that people would need to see it to feel safe. In the past, it was kind of unexpected, it is safe, but you're not necessarily show everybody. So that's probably the main change of what you will see going forward.
Okay, that's interesting. The role of technology and that the expectation of overt processes in play to keep everyone safe. Now, in terms of the economics of it, like, so if I ran like a restaurant or bar, then surely I guess the economics of that would be impacted. So maybe I'll have half the tables and chairs, half the seating capacity that I did have previously. But then at the same time, my cost base, at least the fixed costs, are the same. So would that have an upward pressure in prices, you think? For just service, not for you, but just in general, generally speaking.
I mean, at the moment, we are also working on physical distancing. I personally prefer the terminology physical distancing, not social distancing.
Yeah.
Because people are still socially engaged, just not skin on skin and in person, but you're still engaged via video, online, texting, emails, and so on. And if you are getting close to someone, you may stand away a meter or two. So I personally prefer the word physical distancing. So in our restaurants, we also had to slash down the seating by over 50% because that will be the new norm stated by the government. That restaurants, for sake of argument, would need to have 50% occupancy. It's the same when you go in a gym, there will be 50% occupancy. Now, we are coming up with a few things in order to make it happen. Obviously, the government doesn't tell you really what to do. They only tell you, okay, if your restaurant used to have 200 seats, now with 50% occupancy, you can only occupy 100 people, or 100 seats. How you do it per each every time, okay, that's you as a business decision maker. So a lot of things comes back to the private business on how they're going to implement guidelines from the government. I guess a lot of things that will be implemented are temporary until they found a cure or vaccine or you name it. And then a lot of things will be disappearing, especially when it comes to screens, which are at the moment, wherever you go around, there's a screen kind of thing in front of you to protect either yourself or the other party. So this screen most likely will all disappear over time. But a lot of other things which are being implemented at the moment, let's say QR code based menus, contactless lease, check-ins, everything is on Google Form, SharePoint kind of thing. This probably will remain in place, but everything that is more physical and visually, that probably will disappear over time.
But what about the economics of it in terms of, well, your fixed costs are the same. You still need lights and AC and, you know, people in the kitchen or whatever. What does that do to your costs if you're running at 50% capacity? Does that mean the cost will go up in general?
Well, what you have to do, the problem, what probably happen, if you have a restaurant that used to cater for 200, and you do in 1 year period 200 because of one reason or the other, guests are coming in, it's very popular what you're doing, there always changes, there's always a wow factor. And now you're all of a sudden only allowed to run 100%. What will happen and what will be the focus is productivity, and you potentially may need to review your workforce, because if you suddenly lose a certain amount of business, keeping the same amount of workforce, it will be probably challenging. Now you can try to offset by adopting a new technology. So a lot of hotels, including us, we have started to go to energy saving features. So let's say if we had previously the normal lighting, so a lot of normal lighting has been changed to LED lighting. Therefore, we have already been able to manage our expenses in terms of utilities. In terms of water consumption, you will go to also to go to new technologies in order to provide the same amount of water what you think you'll use, but actually don't use it because you have equipment installed that gives you less water at the same time, let's say when you wash your hands. So there will be also a drive on accepting new technologies in order to manage your expenses. So when I was in Fiji, for sake of argument, a lot of houses which was provided by sponsorship or through sponsorship from the government, they all had these solar panels because he couldn't produce enough power for everyone or every living household in Fiji. So in order to make sure they still had power, the government then came up with a plan of solar panels. So every household got either 1 or 2 solar panels, and that was enough to produce all the energy that household needed. So there are a lot of possibilities of managing your expenses in terms of utilities. On one side, labor cost is a different topic. So either you start reducing the pay, but then again, people need to find 2 and 3 and other jobs, because obviously you pay, your monthly rent will not suddenly go down because your landlord is very nice and says, oh, you know what, because of a COVID, I slash 50% of your rent. You may have some, but the majority, the rent will remain the same. The problem will be with the labor cost in terms of if you are not allowed to cater for the same amount of guests before, then you need to look probably at your labor that needed to make that happen.
Okay, that's a fair point. You need to be more careful in terms of cost management. I get that. And then, I mean, not your property in particular, but just generally, I'm thinking like the big convention spaces, hotels that attach to big convention centers. The square footage dedicated to that, assuming that this is the new norm, will probably need to be reviewed. because you really don't need all that space anymore, because there probably are rules against that number of people gathering. I'm thinking now of KLCC in KL. I'm thinking of the big convention center in Singapore at MBS. So those big spaces, you know, the use would need to be reconsidered.
Well, in Philippines or in Manila, for sake of argument, we have the third biggest function rooms in terms of spacing, in terms of ballroom.
Mm-hmm.
We have already started about a month and a half ago to do mock setups in different function rooms to meet the guidelines from the government of the new norm, because there will be certain spacing. But then beside of the government, obviously also within the company, we are working on certain guidelines in order to make sure guests are safe.
Yeah.
Now, if you would have in the past a round table of 10, well, today it's probably a round table of 6.
Yeah.
So if you had weddings in the past, but this is then more goes on a personal level.
Yeah.
If the weddings in the past were 1,000 people, now if the same people will get married today, are they still gonna invite 1,000 people, or are they gonna invite only 500? It's something we would need to see and play by ear. As a hotel or venue, you are ready to make sure that if somebody comes in and asks, can I rent a hall and I like to do a meeting, we will provide then, or we will be able to provide outlines and guidelines on how the meeting setup could look like if the guest is still happy with it. But it wouldn't be any more round tables of 10, or it wouldn't be conference tables of 2. It would be a conference table of 1.
Yes.
Using probably maybe more 4-feet tables and 6-feet tables. Because in the past you had 2 chairs on a conference table of 6 feet. Today you're gonna probably have more 1 chair on a conference table of 4 feet with maybe a meter distance, and then you have a next table. It's like when you go back to school, everybody has their own table.
Yeah.
So now you have to put that one into the business level for conference and meetings.
Wow.
And then yes, Zoom platforms and video conferences, they're probably gonna start picking up.
Wow. So, you know, when you step back and, you know, you look at all the profit centers within the hospitality sector, they're all impacted, you know, whether it's meetings and conferences, the actual rooms because of international travel being less than before, F&B, everything, the entire business plan perhaps needs to be revisited in general, just generally speaking. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But let's hope this one will not take too long. A new adjusted or modified new normal will happen hopefully by the end of the year, beginning of next year, as soon as they have found a cure in one way or another.
Sure.
But as you can see now, even in Manila, things start opening. It's the same in other countries.
Yes.
And people basically, when being interviewed, are you not afraid of COVID? And people say, I'm more afraid of staying home and being antisocial, and it's worse by the risk of going out. Because it's like having a flu. Not everybody will get it.
Yes.
And once you have, the majority will recover. The only difference, the recovery may take some time.
Yes.
But it's not that you have it, you will automatically maybe pass away in 2 months, in 2 weeks, or whatever time frame it may be. So people are more on this risk level, and eventually will become part of our new normal within us as people. It's like when you drive a car, can you get into a car accident? Yes, but it doesn't stop you driving the car. Yeah, so it's the same thing, but now it's more on a global, because the media has emphasized and brought it bigger. So nobody cares about a plane. So if a plane falls from the sky, you have that on the news maybe for a week, and then it disappears. But the media, unfortunately, did not do a very good job during the COVID-19 covering.
Understood. Well, on that note,
I may also be wrong.
No, I hear you. And to be fair, a lot of people, especially business owners, would definitely agree with you on that. On that note, Udo, thank you very much for your time, sharing of your insights. And like you, we hope that things return to some semblance of normalcy as soon as possible.
Yes, we hope all. Thank you, Derren.